Okay, everyone, are we ready for DrupalCon's next top content model? We are going to bring the fun as the book note for the end of this day. Okay, I am Amanda Konopko. I have seen some of you several times today. I've spoken twice already. This is my third. I am the Director of Experience Design at FFW.
Oh, hi. Hi, everybody. Great to see all of you. My name is Matthew Dichter. I am the Creative Director for North America at FFW. I'm looking forward to taking you on this journey/session/game show.
So today we're going to explore the common challenges that content modeling can solve. We're going to look at what a content model is and how it differs from a design system. We're going to look at the impacts that a content model can provide your organization, how you can get started, the different fidelities of content models, and then we're going to have a friendly competition. As you can see, there's some costumes up here. So, and we're going to ask for volunteers, so get brave.
All right, so before we dive into the game show portion, we wanted to talk a little bit about content modeling, what it is, what it's all about. And first, let me start with some of the common challenges we see with content models or with content in general and why we might need a content model. So first is inconsistent UX and content strategies. So when we have inconsistencies in content, that can fracture the experience for end users and make it difficult both to navigate the experience or recognize common patterns. It can also make it difficult for actually finding and managing content, right? So without structured, reusable content practices and a governance model to kind of oversee that, content may need to be duplicated for use in specific displays, or making it harder even for that editor to find, right? Like there's nothing more frustrating than having to go to like many different places to edit the same piece of content. And then lastly, the other major challenge here is that debt, both in content, design, and technical. Unstructured systems often require implementation of custom solutions to continue meeting in the evolving needs of the organization. And so that becomes difficult to scale over time.
So what is a content model? A content model documents the different types of content and relationships between content in a digital ecosystem. This can be for a website, this could be omni-channel. Your content model can cross many channels as well. It doesn't have to be for one system or one product. There are different levels of fidelity, as I had mentioned. We will dive into those a little bit later. I'll show you some examples of conceptual models, system models, and data models. And content models are some of the most important content strategy tools at your disposal. They help clarify requirements, and they get everyone on the same page about the different content relationships and content that is needed in any given system. So you may be thinking that you have a design system. Why do you need a content model?
So a design system is different from a content model. Let's just kind of say that first and foremost. The design system is really about all the patterns, the libraries, the colors, and the fonts, and the standardized design principles to form a collection of things that I can use within the website. So design systems will help companies or organizations achieve that consistent scale that they're looking for from a design perspective. But it's just the design. What we want to focus on is like, what are we putting into these components? Where is that information coming from? And how can we make it like a consistent experience, right? So creating the documentation to create those relationships and structures. So a content model can fill the gaps in the documentation that can be used to help make more informed design decisions. This will ensure that content editors have the right content and capabilities, and that content is properly displayed through the entirety of the whole experience itself. One me too? Okay.
I know, we've been going back and forth.
Yeah, it's like a ping pong match here. All right, so in terms of the impacts of content modeling, creating a content model helps them inform those structured and thoughtful systems, and it'll make the digital experience overall more consistent, easier to govern, and more scalable for the future. So some of those key benefits are around, again, consistency and efficiency. So well-structured content that has been accurately modeled allows content to be created once and then referenced all over the place in many different ways. Because just because you might have dreamed up a piece of content for a given use case doesn't mean that one day later we might want to apply it somewhere else. And sometimes some of those settings or things that we're captioning don't really relate to that new use case. So how do we break out the content itself from the use cases? So the content model will help us kind of do that a little bit. Also having some level of standardized governance. So having a well thought out content model is great, but it also helps standardize, kind of a baseline of attributes. So that will make it easier to govern content in the ecosystem and throughout various touch points as well. And then lastly, this idea of having room for scale and optimization. As users' needs shift, as organizational priorities change over time, content models will make it easier to scale these experiences. And in some case, it's maybe even planning for an experience that you haven't yet quite envisioned. But by having a content model and an approach this way, you're going to be able to not have to retrofit content into something. You're going to be able to just freely use that content and create a new form factor for it.
It also helps with any sort of migrations that you're doing as well. So when you're dealing with scale optimization, sometimes you're changing systems. And when you change systems, you have to migrate content. And if you have structured content and a sound content model, it makes it much easier to migrate your content and not have to manually do all of the work. So content models are really helpful to content editors. It saves them time, not only when they're first creating the content, but that content's life cycle. And content models help support omni-channel strategies. So in order to have an omni-channel strategy, you have to have structured content, you have to have a sound content model, and doing the kind of exercise of going through the different levels of fidelity of content modeling helps to form a deep understanding of the content requirements, of what all of your stakeholders need, and those content relationships that help to plan for making content reusable across channel. So how do I get started? That's probably what you're asking. We've talked about that there are different levels of fidelity to content models. I had mentioned that there's conceptual models, system models, and data models, and I'll take you through kind of examples of each of those to help you understand kind of what level of fidelity and what types of things go into each. So for our conceptual models are great for setting content strategy. You may be kind of restarting a system, you may be doing a redesign, you may be doing a migration, but understanding your content strategy as a whole is really helpful. And oftentimes you have different teams working on different areas of content, and a conceptual content model can help bring that all together so that you can understand how the many different groups of content that maybe a stakeholder over here is managing and a stakeholder over here is managing relates to each other, and how that can be reused in a system. So in this example, we have an event. We're showing some of those relationships through these little lines. We're pointing out kind of what that relationship entails. That is the basis of a conceptual content model. Anyone can do this. This is not a technical exercise. This is a content strategy exercise, and anyone in a marketing team, developers, anyone can do this. So that's a great starting point. For our system models, this is starting to kind of break down each of our, what we like to call objects, or like the things in your content system, into attributes. So you're starting to see in the conceptual model, we outline that there is a person and a session, but you didn't know the details about the person or about the session content type. This starts helping break down what that content type will look like, and it also helps to determine what you might need in your wireframe. So if you're going through a UX exercise, we always start with a system model because it helps outline what are the needs of this thing before I start laying it out on a page. And last is a data model. It is a giant spreadsheet most often. They look a little scary, but they give you all of the details of your system. So this is really where you get into that complementing of your design system, because your design system can't house all of this information. If you try and do that in Figma or in another system, your developers are not going to like you. So it is really important to make sure that we're outlining all of those different content requirements in a way that we make sure that the content management system is going to be built accurately based on the content editor needs. So this is the last step in the process. You should do some of the others first to warm yourself up. And you don't have to have a giant spreadsheet to get started on this either. You can start with just breaking down your fields, starting to break down what is like the cardinality of the fields, is it required, and do some of the basics to start just to like get your feet wet. And then you'll see over time as you're working with content models what other types of columns and things you may need to add into your spreadsheet to help with giving the type of requirements to your development team, to your clients, if you're working with clients, to be able to approve the work that you're doing as well.
All right. It's go time. So we wanted to put this in, kind of some other circumstances here so people can really grasp the idea. So we are turning this into a game show. We are now in DrupalCon's next top content model. We are going to ask for 2 models from the crowd. We are going to require you to come up here, compete against one another to see who can both understand the concepts of content modeling the best as well as put together the most ridiculous outfit possible.
You do not have to create the content model. We have created it for you.
Right.
You just have to react to the content model using the costumes provided. There is kind of a height requirement because this did come from our height size. So
you can win a trophy. We have a really large trophy here, and also a
some
ribbon.
medals.
Yeah, some medals. So there's stakes on the line. All right. So show of hands. Do we have someone who's ready to compete? Oh, we got someone in the way back there. We got right here. All right, we got our competitors. Come on down.
Come on up. Come on up.
Yeah.
If anyone else wants to participate, this can be a team sport.
Yes.
We were going to make it teams.
Yeah.
We just need like
Any
one
more
or 2
volunteers?
people to put on the outfits.
No? All right. All right.
Come on up. Come on up.
Am I gonna wear this?
Oh, yeah.
Quite possible. You get to choose. You
Right.
don't have to wear it yet. You get to choose.
Anyone else?
Anyone
We got
else
one
wanna
more?
be on this team?
All
Justine,
right.
get up
Justine,
here.
thank you.
Justine might fit the height requirement a little better. I think you've been saved. You do not have to
Yeah.
have a lot.
So now that we have 2 teams of 2 here, you guys can work together. Someone can choose to be the one who's dressed up. The other can be the the clothing designer, content modeler. I guess. All right. So this is how the competition works. We're going to choose a couple volunteers. We have them. Each round, these contestants will be given a different level of fidelity content model and requirements to work from. So remember, that is the strategic content model, the technical content model, the data model. Each round, contestants will need to form an outfit based on each content model and the pile of clothes provided. And at the end of these rounds, the correct outfits will be revealed. Each team will be scored on how closely they came and the correct outfit. Oh, and we do have prizes. This will be our catwalk, people. You better strut your stuff. Yeah. And you know what? Why don't we have the contestants introduce themselves really quickly? So we'll start over here since you're right here. So.
Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm from Ames Community College, and I enjoy doing weird stuff like this.
Hi, I'm Renee from Los Angeles, and I support people who do weird stuff like this.
Hello, I'm Richard. I work at Cal Poly, and I'm a web developer.
Hi, I'm Justine. I'm regretting my decision.
Okay, so we are going to time you. Do you have your phone?
Yeah, I got
Okay. we are prepared. So I am going to bring up the content model. I'm going to explain it a little bit, and then we will give you 2 minutes. So I would look through this stuff before we give you the 2 minutes so that you know what's in the piles. We should have the Jeopardy music playing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our contestants are bravely looking through the costumes for the recording purposes. Okay. So I've got the content model up on the board. We are starting with the conceptual model. So this is going to be a little bit more basic. It's going to outline all of the pieces of content that are in our costume piles. So I would like the contestants to look at this content model and to make an outfit out of the things that are available in this content model. You will see that a conceptual model is vague. So have fun. Your time starts now.
Oh, this is like a 2-minute song. That's perfect.
Okay, so for the people who are listening back to this and do not have the visual of what's going on, our contestants are making an outfit out of the content model. The content model consists of accessories, costumes, and our accessories are made up of headwear and neckwear. So they have to judge what headwear and neckwear is. And costumes consist of separates and onesies. There are also themes. We do not know the themes yet because this is a conceptual model. How much time do we have
All
left?
right.
Justine.
All right. 10,
9,
8,
8,
7,
7.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, time's up. Yay!
Woo!
All
Okay.
right, and someone take some photos for the blackmail that we're going to do later.
So, team number 1, would you like to explain why you chose this outfit?
So we knew we had to have headwear, a form of accessory, a costume that it could either be separates or onesies. So it's the outfit and it's thematic. So that's why we went with
How about our lobster group over here?
So basically, you have many accessories. We've got, a leg. There's another bow tie that you really can't see here.
Oh, I'm sorry. My
Sunglasses, and then for the actual outfit, we have a onesie here, and then I guess the separate for the head.
Beautiful. Beautiful choices.
You guys want to walk the catwalk,
I don't think Justine can walk. Or at least just show yourselves
Yes.
to the crowd.
All right. Should we do by sort of applause? How are we going to pick Okay.
We are are getting a little bit more fidelity here in our system model. So now we're starting to break down the different aspects or attributes of costumes, separates, what is a onesie, neckwear, headwear, accessories, etc. We've given you some themes now. We're starting to outline things a little bit more. So if you would like to change some aspects of your costume based on what is up there and what you see, is there anything that you would like to change?
Does it have to be within those 4 themes?
It's part of the content model, so yes. See, you didn't know the theme to start in the conceptual model. Now we're getting in, we know a little bit more fidelity. You now know what the themes are. Does your costume match those themes?
Otherwise, you're going to have a copywriter really upset that they just wrote a lot of content for Oktoberfest when it should have been for 4th of July.
So you have 2 minutes to change your costumes. And go. So the value of a system model, as you're seeing, is it starts to break down some of those pieces for you a little bit more. And especially when you're starting to see that some of the aspects of your content model have reoccurring pieces, you need to start thinking about those reoccurring pieces and how they will affect the different content types that you're outlining. So you can see that themes is on, it's affecting both costumes and accessories. So you need to be thinking about, what costume am I going to put on? Is that going to fit in one of these themes? And my accessories also have to go with a theme. So how do I deal with that? Where's the music, Matt?
27 seconds.
Does anyone have any questions about the difference between conceptual models and system models while our contestants are dressing? No, tough crowd. Okay. Well, it looks like we have accomplished what we needed to here. So what were some of the reasons why you changed your costume specifically, because you were Oktoberfest at first?
Oh, it's not in the themes, so figured I probably should change. And we've combined.
We just did a bonus. We did a bonus within the themes because our whole thing is 4th of July water safety. Oh. Yeah. So.
And what are our choices over here, lobster? We've stayed in the lobster.
We stayed in the lobster. We're a bit of a lobster thermidor.
Decided to simplify things.
Okay,
Yeah.
we added some neckwear, which is a scarf,
Yeah.
and we added some sunglasses.
Yeah, so we're kind of a little bit more, beach, lobster, thermidor themed.
Love it. Okay, guys, here's where it gets serious. We're in data model mode, which means I have given you actual requirements at this point. So we have costumes. Our costumes have types. Those types are separates and onesies, and you can only select one. So it has to be a onesie or it has to be separates. There are themes. The themes for costumes in particular are animals and food. Luckily, our contestants have chosen animals, so they do not need to get out of their onesies. yours counts as a onesie, even though it has a head. And it is also a food, so you get double points. Also, the shark could be a food too, so double points again. For our accessories, We have neckwear. Neckwear is a scarf, a bow tie, or a necklace. You need to choose one to put on. Headwear, you can have a hat, a headband, a mask, sunglasses, and you can put on as many of those as you would like. And then for our themes, for accessories, it has to be 4th of July or Hawaii themed. Go ahead and change your outfits. Let's see who's gonna win.
Should we still continue to do 2?
You can combine to one, or you can do 2. That is fine. I would stick with the shark. Yeah, I would stick with the shark. To make it easier. Don't forget, your accessories need to have themes as well, people. Make sure they are themed.
You've gone for just animal, no food source.
Just okay. Is everyone ready? Our lobster has on a 4th of July hat, which is headwear, so great, good job. Also sunglasses. It is multi-select. You can have a hat and sunglasses. That is fine. So also winning. And we have a bow tie, which is neckwear. And you can only have one. I see you took off the scarf. Very good. Very good, lobster. Lobster is food and animals, so double points for that. And that does count as a onesie, even though it has a head. So that's a good costume choice right there. Okay, I can't actually see the shark. Okay. Yes, very, very American. So for our costume, the shark is a onesie. It is also a food and an animal, double points. For our neckwear, we have a scarf. It is red, so it goes with the theme. Also, the shark is blue, so that's pretty thematic. The lobster is red, pretty thematic. She only has on a scarf. It was single select, so very good. Our headwear, we have sunglasses. She chose one thing. That's okay in multi-select. You can choose one thing. And we are on theme. So both of you have accomplished what we wanted in the end. Do we see how when we started with the conceptual model and where we ended? This is what we actually wanted. We didn't want Oktoberfest in the beginning. And we didn't want things that were not on theme. So as we get through our content modeling, we start to figure out what those requirements are. We start to figure out what our content looks like. We figure out more of our content strategy. So this was a fun little exercise to prove the value of content modeling. Honestly, you both win. So. Trophies all around. Also, thank you for being great participants and coming up here and being brave and putting on all these costumes to entertain the crowd and us. So, oh yeah, we should wait, Justine, put it back on. We need a picture. No, Matt needs these back. Okay, while they are preparing for the picture, can you take the picture?
Yeah.
Does anyone in the crowd have questions about content modeling? Now we could go back to being serious. We have about 10 minutes for questions, so we properly timed this.
So if you've never done a content model before, what's kind of your first approach to doing a content model for you?
So I always start with a conceptual model. It is something that we do as part of every content inventory that we do, and I will go back to the conceptual model example. We start by taking an audit of the content. We'll do either like a screaming frog crawl, or if a client will provide us with a content pull, we'll do that. We'll audit all of the content, and then we will form themes from that content. We call them content themes, but because I had themes up here, I didn't want to confuse people earlier. But we start to break these things down into like what we normally would call content themes or objects. And then we start forming those relationships. And it is not always based on what the content is currently showing. A conceptual model should be ideal state. So if you see that there should be a relationship and there's none in your content currently, you draw that line. And when you're going through and you're kind of drawing these relationships, you have to think about, is this something that it has a one-way relationship? Is it a two-way relationship? Is it a one or many kind of relationship as well? So that's where I would start. It helps with the content strategy aspect, as well as it kind of sets the tone for what your content types should be in your system. And then going into kind of the system modeling, breaking that down. And then as you're designing, your data model will start to come to life a little bit more. So sometimes your designs will be based off of your content model, your data model. Sometimes your data model will change as your designs change. So it is okay that it's evolving over time. That's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, we talk about it as like a living document. Because oftentimes we will even get feedback from our clients. We might be presenting designs, for example, but they are focused so heavily on the content. And you don't want to like ignore them or say, no, this is not the time for that. So you got to capture that information somewhere. So oftentimes we'll even start capturing some requirements before we're even really prepared to start mapping them out in any specific models. But again, as we make changes to the design throughout the process, even if they are based on the conceptual model or otherwise, we are going to get feedback. We are going to get changes. And so when there's a change to the design, there's likely going to be a corresponding change to the technical model as well.
And when you start with a conceptual model, it helps to kind of like nail down the thinking process, and it's much easier to figure out the gotchas when you're in this conceptual modeling stage than when you get all the way to the data model and you're like, oh, I just built out all of these content types in this giant spreadsheet, and now I realized I have all of these relationships that I didn't map properly. So it helps with kind of setting the tone for the entirety of your system.
How much time would you spend at each phase? Because, say, for the conceptual model, if you start doing designs, if the conceptual model is done, you had the Oktoberfest design, but that's not what you want. You move straight from conceptual to system to data, and like that living model, where does that change? Is it more the data, or do you go back into conceptual into system to data?
So generally, the conceptual model is a short-lived exercise.
Can you repeat that question?
Oh yeah, I forgot to repeat the questions. Now I have to remember the question. The question was what is the process that you go through for content modeling, and like how does design fit into that process so that you're not kind of redoing things?
Like
How long does it take for each stage? Okay, so conceptual models, again, short-lived. I would say you're not spending more than like a day trying to come up with this at most. Even if it's your first, you should just be getting the stuff on the page and going through it kind of as quickly as not as quickly as possible, but don't ruminate on it too much. The point is this should be more of a gut exercise versus your system model where you're starting to get into okay, now I'm nailing down some of these requirements. Once we move into the system modeling, normally we don't go back and update our conceptual model unless that is a deliverable that a client would like to have at the end of the project. So generally, once you move to the next stage, the other thing stops living. It kind of dies off. And the system modeling takes a little bit longer, but again, usually we use that as a basis for creating our wireframes. So that's where the design process and the content modeling kind of come to life, because your wireframes and your UX often bring out other requirements as well that would affect your data model. So you don't want to like get knee deep into your data model before you're wireframing, because you're going to see a lot of churn or change have to happen. And you're also possibly going to restrict yourself from doing some of that creative thinking. So it is a step-by-step process. You can start your data model. We always start our data models while we're wireframing, but it's not something that like we are reviewing and going through. And then that data model comes when we like start designing and we're breaking everything down into the system. And that takes a lot of time. The data models take a lot of time. And again, you can have like different levels of fidelity to your data model too. So it's really dependent on how much you're going to put into that model.
What are your feelings on conditionality and dependency in terms of when you're doing data modeling, so that you don't have multiple different content types that are very similar but not quite the same? This way you're keeping them all within a single content type and maybe changing the requirement capabilities of the individual fields.
Gotcha. So I'm going to repeat that question, but try and condense it a little bit. The question was, how do you deal with dependencies or possibly duplication that comes from content modeling when you have things that are similar but also have different requirements? So generally what we like to do is we will take a look at all of the content types that we need. Again, that's coming from our conceptual model and our system models. And then we are looking at those, seeing if there's any similarities in them, and seeing how we can combine them before we get into that data model stage. And then we usually try and condense down as much as possible. I would rather condense it down and have one thing and then have to split them than have two separate things and have to combine them later. So I always try and simplify as much as possible and then go from there. If you have to split it in your data model, then you have the answer, like it needs to be split. Versus if you have them split, you'll always be thinking like, should I have combined those? So I think it's better to always just do the simpler approach first, test that, pressure test it, and see if you need to break it up.
I think the only issue I have sometimes with simplification is, especially as we're trying to distribute content creation to our users, is the difficulty in creating an effective user interface for them.
So in a session earlier, I talked about how for content reuse purposes, breaking your layout and your like distinctive display aspects out of your content item allows you to kind of keep that content all together. So you might be able to combine two pieces of content or two content types together if you remove the display. So even if that content needs to serve 2, 3 different displays on different channels, you just get down to what is the content, because content and design systems are different. So how you really, when you're content modeling, want to think like, okay, I'm getting out of the display mode and I'm thinking about what are the true content needs. And then if I need to create another content type or something else to house that display, I can do that. Good question.
Are there any Drupal models that help to surface what your current content model is on your site, the as is, what you got, maybe before you start rethinking?
I'm looking at Nathan. Sorry, Nathan. You knew I was going to do this once today. Thank you. Because Nathan normally does the polls for me, so I can have that content model to take a look at. So Nathan, keep it short and sweet.
Yeah. It really depends. So like if your source is like, if you're coming from Drupal like 7 and moving up, then, if you have access to the database, you can always just load that into a local environment and look at it. But it really kind of depends. Sometimes we aren't coming from Drupal and coming from another world. So like I'll usually ask the client if we can get access to a database dump. You know, we'll kind of run queries, things like that. There's a little bit of reverse engineering, but I'm trying to. I wish I could say I had a magical module that would reverse engineer that for you, but for me, it's kind of like a little bit of reverse engineering of looking at their existing website, and if we're lucky enough to get a database dump, we'll try to do some queries and try to suss it out from that.
Beautiful, thank you. And I don't think that I repeated that question. So the question was, is there a way to kind of pull a current state content model from a system, and is there anything in Drupal for that?
There is. The content model and site documentation module.
Content model and site documentation model. Check it out. There was one more question.
Yeah, I was just curious, after you do your preliminary build, is there any sort of revision that you do to the data model? Does it stick around?
So it depends. Oftentimes that spreadsheet will lose its luster and you will not keep the documentation up to date. It is really dependent on if you want to choose to have that be a living, breathing document that you continue to update, because it takes time to continue to update that. But if you ever do another redesign, then you don't need a database dump. You already have your content model, and you can start from there. So keeping it up to date is valuable. Sometimes it falls off. It is really dependent on your goals and like how much time you want to put into that.
So before we say goodbye, these folks have agreed to do a impromptu follow-up panel session next week. And so if you'd like more without the costumes.
Oh, no. There will be costumes.
I'll be wearing the lobster head.
Yeah, Mac will be in costume in particular.
The lobster.
Please see Joe, who's at the door but not blocking the door. And he'll scan your badge and we'll get your email, or stop and give us your email now. We're at the booth and we'll keep sharing.
Thank you so much, guys.
And a special thank you to all our contestants who are brave enough to come up here. Thank you guys so much. Super fun.